When we started kicking it around and it became more and more personal, was that something you were comfortable with, or?
I always been pretty open, but like I never thought I would like see it. It's much easier to talk about it than it is to like, because you're doing a version of yourself kind of, so you don't want to like be disappointed in yourself while you're watching yourself. The hard part was being in the firehouse, because I don't go to the firehouse. Like I had to hang out with those boys again. For the most part, it was just like a normal Staten Island family where it's like a lot of love, can't be together, divorced, split the time. Fireman, nurse. It was pretty chill. It wasn't like, there wasn't too much darkness. I had a very chill childhood up until then.
And then they got divorced 6 months before 9/11.
Yeah, like 6 months to a year before. That's when like I was like 7 and like starting to understand like, oh, so like he's not gonna be in this house anymore. I was just getting used to that shit. You know, you're getting used to the new, like not seeing him, and then it's like, you know, you don't see him at all. The New York way of dealing with things is just distractions. And then you never deal with it.
And so that's the thing that kind of messed you up the most, was it was just such a bizarre aftermath. Because I used to say to you when we were writing, you know, my mom died 11 years ago. No one ever mentions it.
Right.
You know, like after that week, it just doesn't come up almost ever again.
9/11's mentioned on a weekly basis, you know, so I think it made it impossible for me to grieve. Because there was such a fucking show.
In some way, comedy is what saved you, right?
Oh, absolutely. It gives a purpose and like stuff to do. And like, it was the first time I was ever happy was going to an open mic and just trying out a joke, and it got like a little bit of a giggle. You're like, yeah, that feeling's the best. The movie is like my love letter to my mom, and just like overall, just like trying to end that part of my life where it's just like, I feel like maybe we got to a place where we could finally let go a little bit. And, you know, there's art to it.
What did your mom think of the movie when she saw it?
Oh, she was hysterical. It was awesome. Yeah, whole family in fucking tears. Never been prouder.
Because you did a screening just for your family.
Yes.
And I would assume that would be terrifying. I know I was scared of the idea of all your family in a little screening room.
I was horrified. It was so scary, and but it was fun to watch what they found funny.
And what does your mom think about what it's saying to her? Like, can you have a talk with her about the point of the movie?
I think she got it. My mom's been out. My mom's been going out.
She's been going out on dates.
She's been coming back. I don't know if she's going out on dates, but she's like, I'm going to hang out with friends. I'll be back at like 2, 3 in the morning. Wow. And I'll be like, ooh. I'll be like, okay. So like the last like month or so, she's been like really social and shit. So I think she got the point. It made me realize that he had his own issues, and he, you know, had problems just like everybody else. But it also made me realize that even with all that, his morals were still intact, and like he didn't, you know, like none of that prevented him from not giving a fuck and being a hero. So like, it made me like feel good on 2 different levels.
When we were shooting the movie, we have everyone dressed up like firefighters. Some of them are real firefighters who were acting in the movie.
Right.
But then the real firefighters are like 2 feet away waiting to go out on a call, and then every once in a while the bell would go off.
Yeah.
And the real ones would
stop
leave.
shooting and like,
And it was, you know, it's scary every time they leave.
Watching someone leave not knowing if they're gonna come back is the fucking scariest thing ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially if you haven't talked to them, or like you didn't, something you want to say to them. You know what I mean? Like, I was lucky. One of the last nights before my dad died, I had a sleepover at his house, and we watched like Rambo or some shit, which is probably one of the reasons they got a divorce. I was like 7 just watching Rambo. But like, you know, if you don't have closure, like it's terrifying to know a fireman.
You got to work with my daughter Maude as your sister.
Yes, sir.
Who was the one person who would challenge you in the movie and call you out on everything.
Yes.
And I remember on the days we would shoot that, you genuinely seemed irritated to be called out on everything.
Oh no, yeah. Well, she's very precise. And she's like, you know, like she's working on crying. Yeah. So when she comes in and she's crying, like, be ready, Pete. Like, you know, like you gotta respect other people's work. Like you gotta learn that there's other people that are getting in their own space. Like, I didn't know that. I didn't know, like, you can't go up to Marisa Tomei before a crying scene and be like, tell her a fart joke. You know, she's gonna be like, what the fuck? Like, you don't know shit like that. So I was very lucky to be able to learn through a friend's set with a friend's daughter as well, instead of, what could have been the worst.
Steve Buscemi, who's in the movie, who plays Papa, he was a fireman when he was a young man.
Yeah, that was really cool. It was really cool for him to see him talking to like other firemen on set that were real firemen, that just being like, it's like this, you call it this, right? And all that. And it was just really sweet to see him like he really was a fireman. It's fucking crazy.
And in a lot of ways, he's the healing figure. How was it for you just working with Marisa Tomei?
That was just sick. She's just like an Oscar-winning actress. It's crazy. I couldn't believe that I was in the same room. It just didn't seem very real. And then she looked exactly like my mom.
Yeah.
And then we started getting along kind of like me and my mom. Yeah. And it was like really intense and cool. And like she's like old school. Like she's an actual actress. Like her on and off set is just two completely different people. Yeah. And it was just like, again, a learning thing. Like where you're like, okay, make sure you know your fucking lines. Do not fuck this up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not messing around.
She's not messing around. Like she's ready. Like if you're gonna make her, like cry at a picture of a tattoo, like you better fucking be ready to, like don't mess her up.
She's very serious about making every scene incredible.
Well, yeah. She also really cared about my mom. Yeah. She like cared about me as well. She really wanted to make it like half of the time for the movie, she's like, "Are you actually okay?" She's like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
So like, she really got into that spirit, and it really was really great. And her and Bill are just so great together, which is awesome. I think what Staten Island, or the idea is, it's the sister to Long Island, where it's just like for families and shit.
Yeah.
And if you want to like be more fast paced, you go to Brooklyn, Manhattan, or whatever.
Do people like you on Staten Island?
I think it's 50-50. I think some people do, and they get it, where I'm coming from a loving place, where like I genuinely just want it to be better there. Yeah. And I think the other 50 are just like, fuck you, dude. Fuck you, man.
They hate you.
I hate you, man.
You want Staten Island to get better, so you prod it.
Yeah, I want people to come here and be like, wow, this place rocks. I don't want people to be like, hey, I'm afraid to get out to go get that, Moe's Southwestern grill wrap.
Because there's a lot of nice people on Staten Island, but every once in a while, there's a crazy person.
There's a lot of wonderful people on Staten Island. There's also a lot of wonderful, crazy, scary people on Staten Island that you have seen.
Well, every once in a while, in the middle of shooting, one of them would come up to us.
Yeah, sometimes someone spunked out on heroin would just try and wander into the scene, and we would be like, we can't fit this into the program.
We'll take a break.
We'll take a little break.
And we'll deal with this gentleman. When you're doing comedy and you're making a movie like this that has, some discussion of mental health issues in it, what are you trying to say to people who are struggling by being so open about all of this?
Oh, just that like I have these issues and I'm able to do this, or they let me do this sometimes. So whatever you have it's gonna be a-okay. Yeah. I think a lot of people have this shit. I think they just don't really talk about it. Yeah. But like, luckily, Kid Cudi talked about it for me when I was growing up. That was super helpful, and I think he was the pioneer in like getting people to be open about mental health. And at the time, I think it scared a lot of people. But now it's becoming a more topic of conversation, and I think it's a really helpful thing, especially for like kids online that are just like not doing so great.
And the main advice is that it'll get better.
It always gets better. It'll get worse again too, but it always gets a lot better. Whenever you're at your worst, it's just like, it has to go up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I had a therapist who just said, you just have to be in touch with moods. Like, oh, this is that bad mood that comes.
Right.
And it will pass.
Yeah.
But if you're in it, maybe don't do anything important right now.
Right, yes. You learn how to deal with your crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a really important thing. Also, seeing a therapist is cool.
Yeah.
Just having someone to talk to.
Do you like seeing a therapist?
It's super, super helpful. And if I didn't do it, it would be counterproductive.
There was a day where we had a scene in a bar, and we decided to have a lot of your dad's friends in the bar. And before it, you really were worried about it. But on the day, you seem to like having them all around.
Yeah, it was really nerve-wracking at first because like they're regular, like we get to deal with emotions all the time through watching movies and making stuff and like healing through that. Like these guys haven't seen anything in 20 years.
Yeah.
Or seen me or any of me. So like all of this is just a fucking straight shot to all of them. So I was just really worried about them. But then having them there made me more emotional and more like wanting to do a better job and put me more in the zone. So I think it helped a lot having them around.
There's a scene in the movie that was a hard scene to shoot where for the first time your character goes with them on a ride along and just watches them put out an apartment building that's on fire. And that was one of the harder days for you.
Yeah, that was pretty sad. It wasn't sad, it was just kind of just like, even though it was like fake and all set up and whatever, it was still just like, wow, this is what they're doing, 5 days out of the week.
Yeah.
It's not just them watching Scarface and shit. It's like they're, leaving everything behind just to go in and save people. So it was really just like seeing that for the first time in person on camera was a lot.
Your grandfather's in the movie.
Yeah, he is.
What is his name?
His name's Stephen Davidson, and he's a fucking animal on set.
And so Stephen Davidson was the guy that got you interested in movies.
Yes. His father owned a movie theater, so he just grew up watching every single movie ever, and he had to babysit all the time, so he just made me watch every single movie ever, but they were like his, so I know like Ernest Borgnine and all those old guys.
Yeah. So he was the one that made you love movies, and he had to watch you, so he'd make you just watch old movies from the 40s.
Yeah, he made me watch old movies from the 40s, and then he got a camera, and we started making our own. And my mom got really mad because we would make like Mission Impossible, where I would like jump off of his shed, and like come down from the ceiling like in like cowboy boots, and I'm like 6 years old, and he would go, "What? We're making movies here."
We were working on Trainwreck.
Yes.
And Amy Schumer was talking to me about who's funny, who should we consider putting in the movie.
She threw an alley-oop for me.
She did. She said, you need to see this Pete Davidson kid. You were 19 then, maybe?
Yes, sir.
And she's like, it's crazy how funny he is at 19. And then I said, well, let's put him in this little scene in the hospital.
Right.
Just so we could say we were the first people to put him in something.
I was so happy that it wasn't cut.
We wanted you to be like Richard Dreyfuss in The Graduate.
Oh, he's in that?
Yeah, he has one line in The Graduate.
That's awesome.
At least we could say we knew before anyone else.
That's awesome.
And then, how was that day shooting on Trainwreck for you?
That was so crazy and scary because I didn't know, like, I never shot anything before, so I didn't know, like, you get there and then you just sit in your trailer. So, like, I didn't bring much stuff or deodorant. Like, I just came there, and then I started smelling like shit. And I was just sitting in there because it's, like, middle of the summer in Manhattan, and then they're like, you're wearing a tank top. And I was like, fuck! And then I was just super in my head about that the entire time, just stinking up the Apatow set.
But my monitor was far away from you, so I didn't know.
Yeah, I did the whole scene like this, even though my leg was busted. And yeah, it was just so much fun. And I got to improv with like Bill Hader the year he left from SNL. It was just super cool to like meet him that way.
And then Bill recommended you to Lorne.
Yes.
And I bumped into Lorne and talked about you to Lorne, and then suddenly you were on SNL.
Yes.
All because of your stinky pits.
Yeah, all because of that.
Your mom said to me that she had to make a deal with you that she would allow you to go to Manhattan by yourself as a child in order to get you to go to school.
She's smart. My senior year at public school in Staten Island, you would get out of school at 11 a.m. My mom was like, not happening.
Yeah.
She's like, that's not happening. So you're coming to the school where I work your senior year and you get out at 3. So I was like, I just won't show up to school. And she was like, I will allow you to leave from the schools in Brooklyn. I allow you to leave. You can do stand-up as long as you're home. I mean, you don't even have, it doesn't matter what time you're home, as long as you get up and go to school. Yeah. And I was like, deal, no problem.
And so she just let you roam alone.
Yeah.
And hang
so
out
I
with
was just like in
comedians.
weird bars with like DeRosa at like 4 in the morning when I was like 16 years
Joe
old.
DeRosa.
Yeah, DeRosa.
Took care of you.
Yeah.
So basically you found this group of comedians who are accepting of a super weird, partially bald, depressed child.
Yes.
And in a way, did you see it like I found a world of acceptance, or like parental figures?
I think I just was like, wow, I could tell these people how I feel, because all the open mics is just people trying stuff out.
Yeah.
So it's just, it felt like a AA meeting for me, but with jokes.
Can you believe how hard it is to be sane? Like, I go to 2 different therapists.
Same.
One on Wednesday,
2
one
on
on
Wednesdays.
Saturday. It requires that to just kind of function.
Yeah, just
Like
to
it's-
be like a little okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never thought that as a kid, like it would take so much mind maintenance.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel exactly the same as I felt when I was 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting older is just being able to deal with shitty things better.
Yeah.
Really think that's what it is. And then when something good happens, you're just so excited.
Yeah.
Because of all the shit.
What is like the 3 things that any therapist has told you that are the things you go back to that you found most helpful?
Take a second. Try not to be impulsive.
Yeah.
And even to take a second, but like wait 5 minutes thing.
Yeah.
Turn your phone off, wait 5 minutes is like huge.
5 minutes is a long time.
You take your phone off, you just put it, you just breathe for 5 minutes, and then after you're like, if you still want to call this person a cocksucker, go do it. But you probably don't feel that way after 5 minutes.
Yeah. But sometimes you do.
Sometimes you do, and sometimes they deserve it.
Sometimes you can rev back up.
Yeah.
As soon as you turn
Sometimes
the
you
phone
don't
back.
go like, fuck that.
Yeah. But waiting is a tough one.
Waiting's a tough one. Holding ice cubes works. Putting your head in cold water works.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of like cheesy things that actually work, and you're mad that they are so cheesy.
You're like holding your ice cubes going,
Yeah.
God
I
damn it.
just want to punch people in the face.
With this ice cube.
Yeah.
But that's what a meditation is about, is just getting used to knowing how to quiet your mind.
Right.
Do you ever try to do that?
I try the meditation stuff. I'm not good at it. What I do is I listen to music and I go for drives.
Yeah.
Now the meditation app's hard for me. It's the voices that are on it.
They're
And
like,
hey,
hello,
hello.
let's take a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck you. No way. No way I'm dealing
Sometimes
with
it's like a piercing voice. Like,
Sometimes I think it's part of it. I think part of it is to like, you have to deal with this annoying guy.